Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your boy Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about an article I found from Slam Wrestling, which features a book review from a feminist author who is writing about WWE. The book is entitled, and I'm pretty sure you're going to know where she's coming from when I read the title. The title is called A Diva Was a Female Version of a Wrestler, an abbreviated Herstory of World Wrestling Entertainment. Yes, I used the word Herstory, so you know we're in for the Diary of a Mad Cat Lady. So, oh boy. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I will save you guys the cancer of me reading it all. Obviously, it's a white lady. So that means pretty much it. But no matter how many hoops you jump through, no matter how many apologies you have, no matter how you try to be a good role model, it won't change nothing. There's always going to be people mining for things to get upset about, which is exactly what's going to happen here. I'm not gonna go through it. I'm gonna find some of these pretty quotes in here that I'm gonna bring out, and I'm gonna read those. So let's go over this thing here. First is Saudi Arabia. It says the furor from fans, myself included, and one of those aforementioned moments that made me question my patronization of this company when WWE expanded its Middle Eastern presence into the conservative Muslim country Saudi Arabia in 2018. Prior to Saudi Arabia's involvement with WWE as part of its Vision 2030 program, campaign rather, to portray a more progressive country to the rest of the world, women were not permitted to play sports there. The tandem promotion of WWE's Saudi Arabian shows and its Women's Evolution show, the WWE's Evolution pay-per-view, where it was a women's only show, by the way, was held the same week, which some proponents of gender equality saw as a consolation prize, hinted that WWE's goal, aside from the money, was the good press that would come from with being the first company to host a women's sporting events there. And of course, we know that the 2018 show did not feature a women's match, but it was one that was billed, but it ended up being dropped. So apparently this is a problem. You know, here's the thing with this Saudi Arabia stuff. For starters, there's kids there. They have fans there. There's no reason for you to be mad about Saudi Arabia. If you're a person who says that everything is sexist anyway, then where exactly, what fantasy world can you hold a wrestling show without it being sexist? What country isn't sexist? I would like a feminist to respond to that question. What country isn't sexist? And maybe we could have a wrestling show there, because I've heard that the United States is sexist, Spain is sexist, France is sexist, Europe is sexist, all of Europe, which includes Germany, which is, one of the more, Sweden, Finland, Australia, India. I've heard that every country is sexist. Every country is sexist. So if when you have that mentality, how can you possibly pick Saudi Arabia out of all of the other countries? Oh, because women weren't allowed to play sports there. Well, guess what? This book came out at a time after they had the first match there. They've had 2 women's matches in Saudi Arabia so far. So it doesn't matter. This is the problem with bending over. This is the problem with progressivism. You give them an inch, they take a mile, but it doesn't take that much cyanide to kill you. Doesn't take that much. And Vince is so old at this point, man. I don't think they could have got through this shit with Vince in like 1988, because he was still too young and vigorous and full of piss and vinegar. The shit wouldn't have worked. He probably would have argued with this lady on TV. But Vince is almost 80 years old now. This company is so big, and there's so much fucking human resources and all that shit. He's just letting people do whatever they want. So now you got Black Lives Matter shit everywhere. You got rainbow flags everywhere. He's just like, fuck it, who cares? Like, I'm checking out sometime soon. Who cares? Fuck it. Let Stephanie do whatever she wants. And I guarantee you it's Stephanie. So here's another piece from the book. I'm not going to use the author's name, because I don't want, I don't want to give her, because I'm pretty sure some people, this probably be the first time and probably the only time they hear about it. So I'm not going to go through and tell you even where I'm reading this stuff from, because I understand that sometimes when people are talking about feminism and these kinds of people, you attacking them actually increases their popularity. Like sometimes, like when you had Sargon of Akkad, he kept talking about Anita Sarkeesian. He kept making videos about her, kept talking about her. He was promoting her. You know, part of the reason Anita Sarkeesian got so much power is because Sargon was talking about her so much. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you where I'm using this. Just on my word, know that there's a feminist who wrote a book on wrestling. And plus, this stuff, I'm reading this stuff from an article, right? So it exists, all right? But I'm not going to use the faces and names or anything like that, because the last thing I want is for some people to find out, to give this person free publicity. If she wants to pay me, then I'll advertise for her book. But otherwise, I don't give a shit. I will read citations from your book and not give you any credit for it. Okay, so let's continue. So she talked about the quote, the tragic journey of the women's wrestling train wreck. So then she starts talking about all of the women. She starts talking about women's redemption stories. So she says, quote, society loves a bad boy made good. Professional wrestling is no different. It's a wasteland of bad men who committed intimate partner violence, sexual assault, and, in some cases, even murder. Let me count the ways. And then she starts talking about Scott Hall, Jimmy Snuka, Jerry Lawler, Hulk Hogan, accumulating accolades while leaving fallen women in their wake. Jesus. Why bring up shit that is like so old? What the fuck? Are we supposed to have this concept of retroactively canceling people? You know, like just retroactively canceling, like, oh, we're supposed to all of a sudden out of nowhere decide that, and I don't know, I never heard the Scott Hall thing. Jimmy Snuka, that was documented, it was in newspapers. Jerry Lawler, I think he used to, he flirted with some underage girls. They might even fucked one or two of them. I'm not so sure what the details were. And I'm not sure what she means about Hulk Hogan either. But there was some, people get into fights with their wives and girlfriends. They do things that are inappropriate. Sure. But she says, quote, women in wrestling have not been beneficiaries of the redemption story, saying that Miss Elizabeth, Sensational Sherry, Luna Vachon, Chyna, and Sunny, Ashley Mazzaro, the train wrecks of women's wrestling, have long silent stories. They deserve the same re-examination as their male counterparts. So we should give the women a second chance, like we give the men a second chance. Now, see, if this was the general idea that the women deserve a second chance too, that would be fair. But we have to look at things as it is, right? Miss Elizabeth died from drugs. There are other male wrestlers who have not been into the Hall of Fame who also died from drugs. Same could be said for Sherry. As much as I love Sherry, same thing. Luna Vachon, same thing. Chyna, same thing. Ashley Mazzaro, same thing. Sunny got put into the Hall of Fame. Now what she did after the Hall of Fame is she started fucking up again. No different than a man. So when some of these guys, like, they get put into the Hall of Fame after their quote unquote redemption story and they continue to fuck up, WWE once more steps away from them. But if they end up dead due to drugs and alcohol, WWE just kind of be like, well, we'll get to it. We'll get around to it, eventually, but they're dead. So there's no rush. We're trying to focus on the people who are alive. So then she started talking about the Bella twins. I'm not even gonna waste everybody's time with that. Because apparently the Bellas are bad. So it was what it, but in fact, no. Let's not. Let's go back. Let's go back and talk about the Bella twins. I just saw that quote that I was looking for. So it says the empowerment doublespeak of the Bellas, and I'm like, oh, huh. All right. So let's see what's wrong with the Bellas. What did the Bellas do? He said, quote, while empowerment might have been well and good for the Bellas pre-women's evolution, power is what they now possess, running a multi-million-dollar conglomerate. What they don't seem to understand is that they've achieved this due in part, yes, to their hard work, but also their class and pretty privilege, and how they can leverage that to empower other less fortunate women. Class and pretty privilege. Jesus H. Christ. Wait a minute, but they're people of color. The Bella twins are Latinos. Well, Latinas. I'm sorry, Latinxes. Latinx. Latinxes, right? They're Latinxes. They speak Spanish. So that doesn't negate any of their pretty privilege that they are Latinos, Latinas. Apparently not. Apparently not. Apparently not. It is an absolute embarrassment. This is horrible. Of course, she attacks Stephanie McMahon. She went after Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah. It was ridiculous. So let's continue. Quote, though the women's wrestling evolution of WWE began in response to the short match, a tag team match with Paige and Emma versus the Bella Twins in 2015, discussed in the prologue, the measure of its success should not be quantity, but quality. High quality matches and storylines that showcase the plentiful skills of WWE's women's wrestlers and get fans invested. More opportunities inside and outside the ring for women's wrestlers who aren't white, blonde, straight, cisgendered, slim, conventionally attractive, and able-bodied. Quotas in place to ensure equal representation and remuneration. And finally, recognition that the women's wrestling evolution is far from complete and a commitment to reaching the next stage. This heifer, this female cow, wrote down she wants more opportunities for women who aren't white, which is racist, blonde, straight, which is heterophobia, cisgendered, which is, I'm guessing, what do you call it when you're upsetting against cisgendered, transphobic? Would it be cisphobic? Okay, cisphobic, slim, that's body shaming, conventionally attractive, that's ugly shaming, and able-bodied, so that's able-body shaming. So we're supposed to have a black, trans, super fat, definitely ugly, one-legged female world champion in WWE. That's when we will have reached the full eclipse of what we should be doing to help the women's evolution forward. Man, if you don't get this made up monkey shit out of here, these people, this is a business. This ain't the fucking Olympics. You got people jumping over all these goddamn hurdles. Get the fuck out of here. These things are literally made up. These things are literally made up. This lady is out of her fucking mind. Oh. Ooh-wee. She, quote, the women's wrestling evolution is not over because WWE says it is. As long as wrestling is a male-dominated industry in a patriarchal society, there will always be room for evolution. From brine panties to the pinnacle of the industry, the green room, to the main event, a diva to a wrestler, and that will be truly revolutionary. What are you talking about? As long as wrestling is male-dominated. Now, see, here's the problem when you have these concepts, right? And I've been telling you guys before, and I don't know how long this video is. I've been telling you guys before that part of the problem here is how people use words, right? I think there's something I've been trying to get people to understand for whenever I have conversations about progressivism. They are not speaking the same language that you speak, okay? You have to understand that. You have to look at, they use words like magic, right? When abracadabra doesn't mean anything to you, it means something to them. When they say something like women are a minority, right? And then you look at something and you say you should be protective of the female minorities. And you say, okay, well, maybe that's the case. Maybe we should protect the minorities. Like they used to do on college campuses when women were the minorities. And then women become the majority of the campus. Most of the colleges become women. Women then are still minorities, even though they're the technical numeric majority. How did that happen? Because they don't use words the way that you use them. The definition of minority is all about power. They mean the women are not in control. Therefore, it is sexist. That's what it means. It means unless you give women the power, complete power, then it's sexist. So it doesn't matter if you have more girls in a classroom than men. It doesn't matter what happens. If the women are not in complete control, and then even if they are in complete control, you can still say that she's patriarchal. I've seen people say that about Stephanie McMahon all the time. That Stephanie, oh, even if she is in control, she's daddy's little girl. Therefore, she's a patriarch via being daddy's little girl. And therefore, it has to be some woman from the outside that has to come into the WWE to change it, to change its structure, and to make it less sexist. It can't be Stephanie. It can't be her. Because Stephanie is everything that they claim that they don't want. Stephanie is slim, conventionally attractive, able-bodied, and white. So it'll never do. She can't do it. She can't be the one to fix the company. She can't be the one to fix the problem. Stephanie wanted more women's writers in the writers' room. There is now, as far as I know, there was a woman who was in the writers' room at WWE who wrote the Mandy Rose Otis story. She was let go during the pandemic. You also had Dana Warrior, the Ultimate Warrior's wife. She was brought in to help with the women. And that wasn't enough because there were still men in the room. So there's still men there. How dare you? The crazy thing about all this stuff is this stuff doesn't appeal to most women. And not only does it not appeal to most women, it doesn't appeal to most of the men either. Now, there is some very submissive, peg me mommy guys out there who will be 100% into bending over for some of these women, whatever. But most of the people are like, I'll walk away. I'll walk. You know, like, I'm not even against the idea of having women's wrestling as the main event of WrestleMania, if it makes sense. If they're big enough stars, they got enough heat going into the angle, going into the match, I'm all for it. Go for it. Whatever. You know, it doesn't cost me $60 anymore. Now, if it was 1996 and you demand and I pay $40 for a Sasha Banks Bianca Belair WrestleMania main event, I would probably have a better, more salty attitude about it. You know, but if it's only going to cost me $10, only cost me $5, I don't care. You know, it's not going to bother me too much. All right. So, but WWE has been bending over backwards with this thing. They have been women's Royal Rumble, women's Money in the Bank, women's Elimination Chamber, women's this, women's that. The women had their own pay-per-view, even though, you know, I suggested that they should have their own fucking show. But see, that's the thing, right? I suggested women should have their own show. When I suggested that, there were people who were telling me that's sexist because you're not giving the women the power over men, right? You're not giving the women priority over men. What you're doing is segregating the women, and since they know people are not going to watch it, that's not fair. It's segregation, right? Unless the female wrestlers start to argue for themselves to get their own show, you know, which I've seen some of them say, hey, we need to have another Evolution show, yada, yada, yada. But unless they argue for their own brand, let's put it, you know, like a 205 Live just for the women, unless the women in the company start asking for it. If a man suggests it, that's sexist. If a woman suggests it, then it's empowerment. It could be the same fucking idea, same fucking outcome. It's all about who suggests it, who's going to be in control. Because that's all they care about. They don't necessarily care about women having the ability to do anything that they want. They don't care. Because that's why they want to get women fired from jobs. Like these types of women they tried to get the card girls from UFC fired. Now, I don't know if this person in particular who wrote this book is one of those people, but I can tell you that her mentality is the type of person that tried to get those ring girls fired. But Dana White is a man. He's like, fuck you. I'm not going to fire my ring card girls because you don't like them. You know, like, you have to get out of here. So they don't care about women. They care about power. That's what they care about. They want control. If you're not willing to give them complete control, you are sexist. You have to inoculate yourself. You want to get a vaccine? You need to find some real shit. I'll suggest some MGTOW channels or something so that you can understand, vaccine yourself from this feminist bullshit. That's what you need a vaccine from. Because this shit is poisonous. And it has poisoned comic books. It has poisoned movies. It has poisoned video games. It's been coming for wrestling. It's been coming. And I told you guys when I made that video before about Lita, Gail Kim, and Christy Hemme. They was trying to come up with this show. They was doing a Kickstarter for some show that was going to be telling these blind items about how women are treated backstage at wrestling shows. They're really pushing. They're really pushing. And it's gonna get in. I mean, look at AEW. Like AEW, they're resisting it too, but they're resisting it very quietly. You know, like they're meeting some of the quotas with having some quote unquote women of color, all the Japanese women, in top spots and stuff like that, and also having a trans person on the roster and having Sonny Kiss on the roster. So they're kind of going around it. WWE hasn't gone that far yet. You know, they haven't gone that far, but they do give women more opportunities than AEW do, you know, generally speaking. I know that recently it hasn't been that great, but generally speaking. But they've been knocking on the door for a long time. And they really want WWE. Women have their own promotions. Like this woman could just as easily write a book about how great Shimmer is, or how great Stardom is, or how great any of the female promotions in Japan, or any of the female organizations in Europe or America or Canada or Mexico. You could write glowingly about those organizations. Nobody will be interested because nobody wants to hear a good story. Everybody wants to hear the negative shit. Everybody wants to hear how this guy bad. Therefore, you're going to get about how WWE is not doing enough. You know, they're not doing enough to help you. How about you enjoy Shimmer? I think, why not promote the fucking show that promotes the women? That would be easy. Like that, wouldn't that be easier to do? To say WWE's, you know, the women's evolution, yada, yada, yada. Oh, that's great. But we have a women's promotion here, a promotion for women that promotes women that have no men on the cards. Therefore, the women are in complete control. We should all be watching that. But that's not what they want, because it's not going to lead to a combative argument about the power dynamics of the wrestling business. That's not where they're going to go. They want to argue with you about the wrestling business, about the power dynamics and the sexism in the wrestling business. They don't want to fix the problem. They want to argue about it. They want to make money off of it. They don't want to fix it. They want to capitalize on it. These harebrained cat ladies, this is what they do. And I'm not interested. That's why I'm not going to use her name. But I thank you guys for listening anyway. Girls also. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Use the hashtag 3commentaries to support the channel. Thank you for your time. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.